We have more on that breaking news that we've been telling you about the death of Ozzy Osbourne. The British rocker died this morning.
The world of rock has fallen silent. Ozzy Osbourne, the Prince of Darkness, is gone at 76, and no one was ready. A legend built on chaos, music, and madness. He didn't just influence rock, he embodied it. But amid the tributes, one moment stunned the world. Sharon Osbourne's raw, emotional farewell. This wasn't a rehearsed speech. It was honest, broken, real.
His wife Sharon and his children paying a tearful tribute before a huge crowd on their way to a private funeral. They look just broken, don't they, Carl?
After decades of surviving addiction, betrayal, and fierce love, her words at the funeral left the room breathless. Was it an apology? A confession? Redemption? No one expected Sharon to speak like that, and what she revealed left people questioning everything they thought they knew.
Regretfully, the Osbourne family have to cancel our upcoming appearance at the Mad Monster Party in Phoenix.
Join us as we uncover the farewell that silenced even rock's loudest voice. To love and to hold. Sharon Rachel Levy was born on October 9, 1952, in London, England. She grew up in a household that was anything but ordinary. Her father, Don Arden, who was originally named Harry Levy, built a career in the music industry as a strong and sometimes aggressive promoter. He made a name for himself by managing big rock acts and earning a reputation for being both fearless and feared. Sharon had one brother named David, but even in a home with two parents and a sibling, she often felt alone. Her relationship with her mother was never encouraging. Sharon didn't grow up with support or care. Instead, her home life was filled with anger and pressure.
I have a philosophy in life. I keep my head down. I'm very insulated with my family.
At the age of 17, she got pregnant after losing her virginity. Instead of getting comfort, she faced harsh judgment. She was pushed into ending the pregnancy, and for the rest of her life, she carried the pain from that act. That painful choice haunted her, and she blamed her mother for forcing her into it. Later, while visiting her parents again, something even more disturbing happened. Her mother's dogs turned on her, attacking her while Sharon, pregnant at the time, cried for help. Her mother waited too long to stop the attack, and soon after, Sharon lost that baby too. That day left a scar that never really healed. Growing up around Don Arden was not easy either. Sharon witnessed scenes no child should ever see. Her father, bold and aggressive, often waved firearms around and made threats. He used power and fear to get his way, and Sharon grew used to that kind of behavior.
To see their show that night with my father, they performed at this club in London, and I was so in awe.
In her world, violence wasn't rare. It happened often, and nobody tried to stop it. Things began to change when she met Ozzy Osbourne. That first meeting happened in 1970, while her father was managing Ozzy's band.
When Ozzy and I got together, my father wasn't doing good in business, so the world was after me, and Ozzy had nothing.
Black Sabbath. Even then, there was something about Ozzy that caught Sharon's attention. Their connection slowly started to grow, and their lives began to intertwine in more personal ways. Unfortunately, Ozzy's life spun out of control in 1979 when he was kicked out of Black Sabbath due to heavy substance and alcohol use. He spent months locked away in a hotel room, drinking and using hard substances every single day. It was Sharon who stepped in and pulled him out of that darkness. She didn't just help him recover, she pushed him to rebuild everything. Sharon took over as his manager and pushed him to chase a solo career. She wasn't just making calls and organizing deals, she was putting together a band, choosing musicians like Randy Rhoads, Bob Daisley, and Lee Kerslake to work with Ozzy. She made sure everything was in place for his comeback album, Blizzard of Oz. And that album changed everything for him. Ozzy returned stronger, and Sharon had made it happen.
Blizzard was finished, the guys went on the road, and my plan was that
But her father wasn't happy. He couldn't accept the fact that his daughter was dating Ozzy and had taken charge of his future. So he decided he would get back at both of them. At one point, he even tried to ruin her relationship by telling Ozzy lies about her. He claimed she had betrayed Ozzy, trying to turn him against her. Once, he even tried to end her life. That was when Sharon reached a breaking point and cut all contact with her father. For the next 20 years, she didn't speak to him at all. Even though Ozzy was still married to his first wife, Thelma Riley, he and Sharon grew closer. Their bond turned from professional to romantic. Ozzy's marriage ended in 1982, and he divorced Thelma. That same year, on July 4th, Sharon and Ozzy got married in Hawaii. Ozzy already had 3 children from his first marriage, but with Sharon, he started a new family. It wasn't easy in the beginning.
Ozzy was married and had 2 children. So after the divorce, his wife divorced him.
Sharon went through the heartbreak of miscarriages before doctors found out she had a condition called cervical weakness. She linked it to the abortion she had at 17, which had left lasting damage. After a medical procedure, she was finally able to carry a pregnancy to term. Their first child together, Ame, was born on September 2, 1983, in London. Then came Kelly on October 27, 1984, and finally Jack on November 8, 1985. Sharon poured herself into raising her children, but they weren't raised like other kids. Fame followed them from the start. Years later, 2 of their children, Kelly and Jack, became well-known faces thanks to the MTV show The Osbournes. The show ran from 2002 to 2005 and gave viewers a look into their wild and strange household.
You have to really do that when you're in jail?
Yeah, I might pray.
Who went to jail? Dad. What for? Stealing.
Their daughter Ame, however, chose a different path. She didn't want the fame and didn't want cameras watching her every move. Even though she grew up with a famous father, she wanted to live without all the attention. Sharon's father never saw his grandchildren during their younger years. She had told her children that their grandfather had passed away. But one day, while they were in Los Angeles, they saw Sharon shouting angrily at an older man in the street. That man was Don Arden. When her children asked who he was, Sharon pretended it was just a random stranger. Years later, in 2001, Sharon and her father reconnected, and surprisingly, he even appeared on The Osbournes. Still, those years of pain, betrayal, and struggle were never forgotten. Sharon had come a long way, from a troubled daughter in a violent household to a mother, manager, and force behind Ozzy's legendary second act.
Mom, but seriously, you have to stop doing that. If you don't like what you see, then just shut up.
Every part of her life had been shaped by loss, hardship, and an unbreakable drive to rise above all of it. But that wasn't the end of it. Even her marriage wasn't in any way perfect. A tale of survival. In the world of rock music, the names Ozzy and Sharon Osbourne became strongly linked because of their fiery and dramatic relationship. While they stood together for many years, there were many difficult moments that pushed them to the edge. The worst moment came in 1989, during an event that could have ended their marriage forever and even cost Sharon her life, though their problems didn't come out of nowhere. Long before the dangerous incident, the signs of trouble had already started to show. In May 1984, Ozzy was arrested in Memphis, Tennessee, for public intoxication after a live performance.
You might remember Osbourne was arrested in San Antonio in 1982 for public intoxication and for urinating in public.
His drinking had already gone too far, and he was also using several hard substances at the time. His lifestyle was spinning out of control, and the damage was showing not only in his health, but also in the way he treated those closest to him. He was drinking daily, and his body was breaking down. Sharon had to deal with the chaos every single day, until she reached a breaking point and urged him to get help. Eventually, Ozzy agreed and checked into the Betty Ford Clinic on October 28, 1984. That day wasn't just any day. It was the day after their second daughter, Kelly, was born. Sharon had just brought new life into the world, and at the same time was dealing with a husband caught up in addiction. Ozzy completed a 6-week program, but things didn't really change when he got out. According to Sharon, his sobriety lasted less than an hour before he started drinking again. By November 1985, when their son Jack was born, Ozzy's problems were still the same. Right after Jack's birth, he passed out from being drunk. Nothing seemed to change, and the addiction kept dragging him down. Sharon had to look after their children and also carry the weight of Ozzy's struggles. The fighting between them grew worse. It wasn't just about loud arguments. It was the kind of fighting that left scars on their hearts and minds. All of it finally built up to one terrifying night in 1989. Ozzy had been drinking and taking illegal substances for about a week straight. Sharon could see something was very wrong. He wasn't his usual wild self. Instead, he seemed too calm, too focused. The strange shift in his behavior made her nervous. She didn't know what mix of substances he had taken, but something about him didn't feel safe. That night, after they had put their children to bed, Sharon sat in a room by herself and tried to read. Ozzy walked in and sat on the sofa. He was heavily under the influence. Without warning, he said something that sent fear through her entire body. Then he pinned her down on the floor and tried to strangle her. She fought to stay alive. Luckily, her hand reached for the panic button placed on a nearby table, and she managed to press it. Help arrived quickly. Police arrived and took Ozzy away. He was locked up in a jail in Amersham, England. The next morning, he woke up with no memory of what had happened. When an officer told him he had been arrested for trying to end Sharon's life, he thought it was a joke. But it wasn't. Reality hit him hard, and he couldn't believe what he had done. Sharon decided not to go through with the charges in the end, but Ozzy didn't escape the consequences. The judge ordered him to attend 6 months of medical treatment. During this time, Sharon began to rethink everything. She spent time going over what had happened. She didn't rush into any decisions. Her main focus was on her children and herself. She had to think about what would keep them safe. Divorce crossed her mind more than once. However, something kept her from walking away. She weighed her choices carefully. She knew life with Ozzy would never be easy, but she wasn't ready to give up. With that realization, she waited, and when Ozzy returned from treatment, they continued their life together. The past still hung over them, but they tried to move forward. Behind the fame, there had been pain and fear, but somehow, the two of them held on. Their life wasn't smooth. It was full of difficult moments that almost destroyed everything. But through all the struggles, they stayed together. Even when the whole world saw how badly things had gone, their relationship went through some of the darkest moments anyone could imagine. But they didn't let go. They pushed through it, step by step, even when everything seemed broken. That very disturbing incident in 1989 nearly tore Ozzy and Sharon apart. But that wasn't the only time their marriage came close to falling apart. For better, for worse. Years later, after that haunting incident in 1981, trouble showed up again. In April 2013, Ozzy let everyone know that he had relapsed. He had gone back to drinking and using hard substances after being sober for a while. Many people quickly started thinking that this meant he and Sharon were splitting up, but Ozzy tried to explain that they weren't breaking up. He just said he was working on improving himself. But things didn't hold for long. In May 2016, after over 30 years of being married, the couple publicly announced they were planning to divorce. Their decision shocked many people. Rumors began to spread, and soon the real reason came out. A well-known celebrity hairstylist from Los Angeles was said to be at the center of the problem. Reports claimed Ozzy had an affair with her, and that this was what pushed Sharon to finally step away. For a while, it seemed like their long relationship had reached its final end. Yet, not even 2 months passed before the situation changed again. Ozzy and Sharon decided to fix things. They chose to stay together, even though their marriage had gone through deep cracks. Ozzy appeared on national television and described the issue as just a rough patch. He seemed hopeful and made it sound like they were back on track. That same day, Sharon made a heartfelt appearance on her daytime show. She didn't hide what had happened. She admitted she was deeply hurt, but she also said she forgave Ozzy. Their marriage had lasted for over 3 decades, and she couldn't picture her life without him. It was a painful moment, but she chose to hold on rather than let go. Only a few weeks after that, the woman involved in the affair came forward. Her name was Michelle Pugh, and she had worked as Ozzy's hairstylist. She revealed that the affair hadn't been short or recent. It had lasted 4 years, beginning in 2012. She spoke openly about how deeply involved she became. This made everything even harder for Sharon, especially because it showed that the situation had been going on for years, not just months. In response, Ozzy's team made a statement. They shared that he had been going through therapy to treat intercourse addiction. It wasn't just one affair. There had been others too. His representative said Ozzy wanted to apologize to all the women he had been involved with. He had started working closely with therapists and was trying to face what he had done. As time moved forward, Ozzy and Sharon tried to rebuild what they had lost. In May 2017, on Mother's Day, they did something meaningful. They traveled to Las Vegas and renewed their wedding vows. Ozzy described it as the day he truly felt like they were starting over. He admitted to all the damage he had caused and took responsibility for his mistakes. He said that without Sharon, he would be nothing. It was clear he had been shaken by the risk of losing her. Just a few days before their vow renewal, Sharon shared her feelings about what had brought them back together. She said that being with someone for 35 years came with its own struggles. At one point, she had fallen out of love with Ozzy, but something had changed. As she watched him work on himself every single day, she started to care for him again. He met with his therapist every day, trying to deal with the things that had nearly destroyed their marriage. This made Sharon gain a new kind of love for him. She noticed how hard he was trying, and she began to respect him again. Years later, in November 2020, Ozzy looked back on everything he had done. He didn't try to hide anything. He admitted that he had made terrible choices. He said cheating on his wife was one of the worst things he had done. He said he had stopped doing that, and he had finally seen how serious it all was. He realized Sharon could have left him for good, and he was lucky she didn't. He regretted breaking her heart and couldn't stand what he had done to her. By the time 2022 arrived, their relationship had settled into a better place. It had been 40 years since they got married, and Sharon marked that moment in their lives with a special message. She posted a tribute to Ozzy, talking about how long they had known each other and everything they had shared. Over 5 decades of love, pain, growth, and connection had brought them to that point. They had gone through every kind of challenge, but they stayed side by side. Their story showed how messy, painful, and complicated love can be. It showed how two people could nearly fall apart again and again, but still find a way to hold on, work through the damage, and try to start over. Through betrayal, heartbreak, therapy, and forgiveness, they moved ahead. Not without scars, but still holding each other. Meanwhile, the end was fast drawing near. Till the end of the line, Ozzy Osbourne went through many painful years of illness, and Sharon stayed close to him through it all. From the very beginning of his health struggles, she stood by his side and tried to help him carry the weight of each new diagnosis and treatment. He had suffered from body tremors for many years. At first, he thought those shaking spells came from his long history of substance use. But in 2003, doctors told him the real cause. It was a genetic form of Parkinson's disease which affects the nervous system and slowly makes movement harder. He had to start taking daily medication which helped reduce the shaking, but they didn't take it away. The condition stayed with him and gradually changed how he lived. It affected his balance, his energy, and his hearing. He often asked people to repeat themselves. His body no longer worked like it used to. Each day, new challenges showed up. Then, in October 2018, he faced something else. He had to get hand surgery because of an infection that had started in his thumb. The problem spread fast, and it couldn't be ignored. After that surgery, he caught a serious infection in his upper chest and throat. He stayed home to recover, but then another terrible thing happened. He fell at home in Los Angeles, making older injuries from a 2003 ATV crash much worse.
Going back to that ATV crash at your estate in England,
Ozzy is in an ambulance on the way to the hospital.
At that point, his body couldn't handle that kind of shock anymore. He had to cancel all his 2019 concerts. The pressure of traveling during winter across Europe made everything riskier. In early February 2019, doctors sent him to the hospital. He had already been fighting the flu, and the infection had worsened. There was real fear that it might lead to pneumonia, especially with his weak health and the strain of performing. His team postponed the European leg of his tour. Days later, he was moved to intensive care. The situation was serious. Despite some hope that he might recover in time for shows in Australia and New Zealand, that didn't happen. He had to cancel those too. His fall at home had left him badly injured, and his lungs were still not strong enough to fight off illness. The entire 2019 tour was dropped, and he stayed away from the stage. By February 2020, he also had to cancel a North American tour. He needed treatment and rest. Plans were made for him to receive care in Switzerland, and he stayed there until April. During that time, more health news came out. He also had emphysema, a condition that made it even harder to breathe. His lungs had become fragile, and every sickness now felt heavier. Parkinson's disease didn't go away either. In fact, it got worse. He went through 4 spinal surgeries trying to fix his back and get back some strength. The final operation was done in September 2023. But even after that, he didn't fully recover. Parkinson's kept taking from him little by little. It became more difficult for him to stand or move. By 2025, he had lost the ability to walk. Each year added more pain to his story. His world kept getting smaller, but Sharon stayed with him through everything. She helped carry him through his worst days. Their home in Buckinghamshire became the place where he spent most of his time. There, surrounded by his family,
announced this evening. I'm going to read and show you the statement one more time from his family, and it says this.
He passed away on the morning of July 22, 2025.
But first, we have some breaking news to get to. The legendary singer Ozzy Osbourne has died from 2002 to 2005.
He was 76 years old.
Osbourne was 76 years old. We will, of course, continue to follow this story and have more later on his passing.
Just 17 days before his demise, he had performed for the last time at the Back to the Beginning farewell concert. That final show had marked the end of an era. His passing was announced with deep sorrow. The news broke hearts all over the world, especially within his own home. Sharon, now 72, felt the loss like a heavy blow. Even after all the years she spent caring for him, the final goodbye still hit her hard. Their children came together to lift her up and make sure she never felt alone. They stayed around her, sharing moments, telling stories, and holding on to every memory they had made together as a family. Although there was pain, there was also a deep bond. that brought comfort. The family had stayed close right up to the very end. They didn't let Ozzy go without love. They didn't let Sharon carry her grief by herself. She had been the strong one for so long. Now it was her turn to be surrounded, supported, and cared for. Ozzy's journey through illness was long and difficult. From tremors to surgery, from infections to broken bones, from canceled tours to being unable to walk, he went through one thing after another. But even with all the pain, he fought on until the very end. And when the time came, he left this world in the same way he had once ruled a stage, surrounded by those who loved him and never walked away. But it was just all about him. Here are some interesting details about Sharon's life and career. Woman of Steel. In the 1980s, Ozzy Osbourne's fame was growing. His music career moved forward with several albums that sold very well. Alongside that, he went on worldwide tours, and this helped his name spread across different countries. Fans followed him from one city to another. Sharon, his wife and manager, worked hard behind the scenes. She had big plans and wanted to build something even larger for him. In 1996, she came up with an idea to start a rock festival. She called it Ozzfest, and it quickly became a yearly event. Every summer, fans came together to see their favorite rock bands perform. By the time the event reached its 10th year in 2006, it had become one of the most popular rock festivals. Tickets sold fast, and by the following year, the prices had climbed high. Sharon decided to make the tickets free that year so more fans could come in. She wanted the crowd to grow even more. Before she created Ozzfest, Sharon had tried to get Ozzy into another famous music event called Lollapalooza, but they turned her down. They said Ozzy didn't fit their image. That rejection pushed her to start her own festival, and it turned into a huge success. Yet Sharon didn't stop there. She built her own talent management company and named it Sharon Osbourne Management. She was the only person running it in the beginning. She picked up artists like Gary Moore, Lita Ford, Motorhead, Cold Chamber, and even the Smashing Pumpkins. She also helped manage a band called Cube with Mike Dunphy, who had played guitar for the band Cud. Although Cube got signed to a big label, Polydor Records, they didn't rise too far in the music scene. Over time, Sharon began saying no to managing other people. She turned down requests from Fred Durst, Guns N' Roses, and Courtney Love. She wanted to focus on what she believed in. Sharon's life took a different turn in the early 2000s. A new kind of fame found her when MTV began airing a show about her family.
I met Ozzy when I was around 18, and he came into my father's office.
It was called The Osbournes. The cameras followed her, Ozzy, and their kids around their home. Sharon was the one who had made the deal with MTV, and it helped Ozzy reach people who had never followed heavy metal before. The show became a huge hit and even won an Emmy Award. When Sharon found out she had cancer in July 2002, she didn't stop filming. She wanted the show to keep going. The last episode aired in March 2005 in the United States, and in Britain, it had already been airing since 2003. The show gave MTV some of the highest ratings they had ever seen, both in the United States and the United Kingdom. Sharon also became open about the changes she made to her appearance. She talked about all the plastic surgery she had done over the years. She had written about it in her autobiography and even went on TV to talk more about it. She had gone through several major procedures, including a full facelift, stomach tuck, and breast lift, along with other surgeries. Still, she said there were some areas of her face she didn't want touched. Altogether, she had spent around £300,000 to reshape her appearance. Money started coming in from all directions. In 2006, she was listed among the richest women in Britain, placed at number 44. The next year, she dropped a bit to number 6. Together with Ozzy, they were counted among the wealthiest couples. In 2006, their combined fortune was £100 million, and by 2008, it had gone up to £110 million. They had moved up the ranks and were now seen as one of the richest families in Britain. She also stepped into the world of talent shows. Over time, he worked as a judge and mentor on the United Kingdom version of The X Factor. She gave advice to the contestants and helped shape their careers. Later on, she joined another show called The Talk in 2010. The Talk focused on everyday topics like motherhood and relationships.
I never thought in my wildest dreams that my career after 50 years would have ended that way.
Sharon stayed with the show for over a decade, only stepping away in 2021. She had been the last original co-host still on the show before leaving. Meanwhile, her first autobiography, Extreme, came out in October 2025. It was co-written with Penelope Deaning and covered the many chapters of her life. She talked about growing up with her father, Don Arden, and the many dark moments she faced. The book went deep into her personal life, her fights, Ozzy's substance addiction issues, her health battles, cheating, counseling, and even a plane crash. She didn't leave much out. The book was released by Time Warner Books and became a top seller right away. It held the #1 spot on the Sunday Times bestseller list for 15 weeks. It sold over 621,000 hardback copies and passed the record set by David Beckham's book. In 2006, it won Biography of the Year at the British Book Awards. Months passed, and the number of sold copies grew, eventually becoming the most successful autobiography ever written by a woman. She didn't stop with just one. Her second autobiography came out in 2017, and this one focused more on how she survived cancer. Then, in 2013, she got ready to release her third book. She named it Unbreakable, and it came out in October of that year. Sharon Osbourne had lived through so much, and she kept moving forward, one bold step after another. Her story is one of survival, determination, and hope, inspiring millions around the world. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.